Hey there, welcome back to Creepy Encounters. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the videos. Night guards of Reddit, what's the scariest experience you can share with us? I used to work security for a ski resort. I was swing shift, 4 to midnight. After every shift I had about a 20-minute walk down a dark mountain road through the woods to reach my bus stop. Also there were no street lights. There's dark and then there's in the woods in the shadow of a mountain dark. After a week or so I started getting stalked by a pack of coyotes. One coyote isn't terribly impressive, like an ugly medium-sized dog. 2 coyotes aren't super intimidating either, but 3 or more is a different story. Once it's a proper pack they get bold. The first couple nights it was just 1 or 2, I could see their eyes shine about 40 or 50 yards in the woods, they'd check me out then run off. After a week or 2 more started showing up, 4 or 5 at a time, but once I counted 8. The thing is, once there were 3 or more they didn't run off, they'd follow me from the tree line, every once in a while crossing the street in front of or behind me. They also stopped keeping their distance, they'd come as close as 20 feet or less. Seeing 8 pairs of glowing eyes is creepy, but the noises they make, holy fuck. So yeah, I carried bear mace at the ready during my walks to the bus stop for the whole season. Used to work at a summer camp deep in the north woods of Wisconsin, where the nearest town was nearly a 40-minute drive away and the forest grew thick, crisscrossed by overgrown and unmapped logging roads where you could easily get turned around. The coyotes there were really bold. A longtime staff member liked to go for pre-dawn jogs along the back roads, and he said the coyotes would follow him just beyond the edge of his flashlight beam. Before I was a staff member there I was a camper, and during one camp out in a secluded portion of camp I had to sleep under the stars because my tent buddy brought a one-man tent for 2 people. The next morning the guys I was with told me with wide eyes that a coyote had walked up to me and started sniffing my head and neck as I slept. I blew them off and accused them of making it up for a cheap laugh, but hearing that staff member's story years later made me reconsider. Coyotes are bold. I live in Montana. I heard of a woman who recently moved here who saw a coyote in her yard playing with her dog. She ran to find a camera, which apparently took just a few minutes. When she got back there were several coyotes eating her dog. Not a night guard, but I was a janitor for a little bit a while ago in a building that was only accessible by a key fob. You'd need one to get into the front door, and you'd have to use it again to enter the offices. The shift was from 4 p.m. to midnight, and if I finished early, I got to leave while still being paid until midnight. Each night I'd hang out with my coworkers in the office until 5 p.m., then we'd all head out to our buildings. I'd empty all the trash bins first, vacuum and mop where needed, take care of any scheduled cleanings like steam cleaning the curtains, and I'd hit the bathrooms last since everyone would normally be out of the office at that time. Most nights I was finished between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. There was a night when I was finishing up, and all I had to do was clean the bathrooms. I did the woman's room without any issues, and then I headed into the men's room. When I went in, the lights turned on because of that sensor, and there was some man I had never seen before just standing in the middle of the bathroom. I have no idea who he was, or how long he was in there, but he had to have stood still long enough for the lights to go off, and then remain motionless so they wouldn't turn back on. When I saw him, I just turned around and left for the night. I worked at an airport, and while I was not a guard, I was the only one working graveyard shift at my job. One night I was sitting at the front desk playing a game on my phone and the sliding doors to the lobby opened. I looked up, didn't see anyone, thought it was weird and went back to my phone. A few seconds later I heard a clacking noise on the tile floor in front of the desk. I very slowly stood up and then froze. 2 of the biggest Rottweilers I had ever seen were standing in front of the desk staring at me. If they decided to attack me there was no way I could fight off both of them, and being alone until the next shift meant they would probably kill me. After what felt like an hour of watching them, their body language didn't seem aggressive, so I came around the desk and it turned out they were actually both super chill dogs named Sophie and Mac. They also knew how to sit, give their paw and lay down on command. They belonged to a boat shop about a mile away, and it turns out airport security were very familiar with them as they had a habit of escaping the boat shop and wandering the airport. They ended up hanging out with me for the rest of my shift until security picked them up and gave them a lift back home. I do rounds in a factory. During shutdown with maybe 10 lights on in a giant plant for holidays. One of the freaking monstrous machines lets out a blowhorn sound that mirrored the raid sirens in Silent Hill. I cannot begin to tell you the dread that inspired. Security at a remote site at about 3:30 a.m. Doing my rounds, admittedly sleep deprived, and heard a very clear fuck whispered from just outside the fence. Some rustling ensued and my heart started to race. Called for backup but no answer. I go to investigate on my own and find nothing. FF to 4:15 AM, just go to sleep already from the same spot. Call for backup, no answer, investigate, nothing. Now pissed, I go to the security office to ask where the fuck everyone is because I'm hearing people talk in the bushes. Turns out both of my partners left. Called the operations center, nothing. I was straight up about to leave when a truck rolled up to the security gate. I'm in the office, so I see it on the camera and I flip on the microphone and say, please present your ID to the camera. We'll have someone let you in shortly. No answer. Go to investigate. Drunk guy took a wrong turn and thought he was at home, so he fell asleep in his truck, at our gate. Call the cops cause he clearly shouldn't be driving, not that it's really my issue. Then call operations again. This time they pick up and inform me everyone is sick and that I should go home as it's against policy to work at this site on your own. Still no clue what those voices were, but man, that was a stressful night. Lots of break-ins from copper thieves, quite often armed though. I'm a night guard, but the story is from a colleague of mine. So my colleague was guarding this quite big complex in which the security system was not working. So they had 2 guards stationed at 2 different locations in this building. My colleague gets a call on the radio from the other night guard that he's hearing someone trying to break in. So my colleague rushes over there as fast as he can. Now this building was quite the maze and required a number of keys in order to get from where he was to where the other guard was. And he finds out that he's been given wrong sets of keys. So for him to get to where the break-in is happening, he now has to go around the outside of the building. This took some extra time, and when he arrived he found the other guard knocked down in a pool of blood. He had tried to stop the 3 guys doing the break-in by himself and got rewarded with a hard pipe bash to his head. My colleague pressed his SRT, the panic alarm, and tried to tend to his friend's wound. It took about 5 minutes for the police and EMT to get there, but he said it felt like it took hours. Since he was pretty sure his colleague was going to die. He ended up in a coma for 5 days and also lost some of his eyesight in his left eye. But other than that, he recovered quite well. No one got caught since the attackers just hit him blindsided and decided to get the hell out of there once they clocked him. My colleague still works as a night guard, but the other guy that got a pipe to his head had a few months to recover and now works as an EMT instead. Not a guard. But I was alone at my grandfather's home when he was in the ICU. As I fell asleep at 1 AM, I hear the doorbell ring. I go out to open the door expecting my relatives. But there's no one there. Confused, I get back into bed and try falling asleep. It is 3 AM now and I hear the doorbell ring frantically again. This time, long rings like someone held his finger on the doorbell. I am scared this time. I jump out of the bed, look through the window to see if there's someone at the door. I don't see anyone. Scared as hell, I get back into bed waiting for the ringing to stop. It stopped ringing after about 15 minutes. I was totally convinced that my grandfather had passed away and his soul is trying to get into his home. I fall asleep around 6 AM after the sun came up. Next day, I told my experience to my dad. He checked the doorbell's exposed wire box and comes out laughing. There was a gecko trapped in the wires. Whenever it brought 2 wires together, the doorbell rang. P.S. My grandpa came back home healthy, but did not ring the doorbell. It was his house, he had the keys. Grew up in northwestern Ontario. In the last couple years of high school I worked night watchman on weekends at one of the gold mines. Towards the end of one of my rounds, in the wee hours, I walked past one of the bunkhouses. 20 past the bunk, the gatekeeper, who could see me from afar, calls on the radio and tells me to look behind. I look and there is a big ass black bear literally 5 from where I walked. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more real life creepy encounters around the world. See you in the next video. Bye.